Yes, bear with me. This is my first conference talk. My slides will not be very exciting. Didn't get much assistance with that. But as you can see, I'm going to be talking today about how we've gone from a very slow turnaround on resolving things, isolating things, preventing them from happening again, to using more tooling to get us to a place where we can proactively address things, find areas that we need to really attack to bring more stability and reliability with our products as we're adopting a DevOps culture. DevOps, all right? So anyway, a little bit about Blackboard. It's been around for about 17 years now. They're a reasonably sized enterprise company. We're an international company. We have offices throughout the globe. We have data centers throughout the globe. We have users throughout the globe and clients throughout the globe. We are the market leader in the LMS space. We do have some good competition with folks like Canvas and the like, which is really kind of pushing us to be more innovative and really provide better services for our users. So yeah, that's Blackboard in a nutshell. This is one of the fancy slides that I actually got from marketing. And this just shows all the different types of capabilities we have to really take care of a student in their day-to-day. There's the Collaborate for remote learning. There's Transact, which is the point of sales. You go to the cafeteria, get your meal, boom, you're in. So anyways, lots of different products we have here. I'm going to really focus on Learn. I guess I should say a little bit about myself, I guess. I'm the director of cloud automation and tool engineering at Blackboard. I grew up in the Bay Area. I've seen cherry orchards become business parks. It's been quite a ride. I've been in the tech industry since about '95, straight out of high school, jumped in, had a passion there. Passions, really like building strong, high-performing teams. Going from that forming, storming, performing. I really like that, seeing that process take place. I also am really passionate about building scalable applications and systems as well with reliability in mind. And as you can see, automation, automation, automation. Throughout my career, I've played several different roles within support and QA and development and operations. And I've kind of wore a lot of hats. Along each of those jumps, I've always been about automation. Let's take the potential of human error out of it, and let's automate. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. So yeah, we're going to focus on Learn. Learn has been your traditional bi-yearly enterprise box software. We have a self-hosted model. We have a managed hosted model for Learn. So that's, it's kind of where we're at with that product. Lately, or not lately, it's been about a year now, we've actually pivoted and we're moving it to the cloud. We're providing a SaaS offering, a lot of the typical stuff you're hearing a lot of enterprise companies doing. So with that, though, there was a clear indication that we would need a whole revamp of our tools to really be able to provide a real SaaS offering and to really leverage all the goodies that you get from public cloud. So yeah, as I talked about, we've in the past, or we're kind of working through this process now of revamping our tools. Traditionally, we've had pretty old tools, sometimes a lack of tools in general. For example, APM, right? Everyone's here for APM. So APM, prior to, we wouldn't run it on all systems at all times. We would install it when there was an issue, and then try and isolate and find out what's going on. So yeah, lack of really leveraging APM in its goodness. We didn't really have any centralized logging to where you can run queries, find problems, detect them, drill in, resolve them quickly. So that we lacked that. We also had pretty poor monitoring, a lot of white noise to sift through. Not really, sure if you could find out that something's down, and by the time you go look at it, it's actually up and it's saying that it's down. So just not proper visibility into how the actual application was performing. And then we just had poor data. Just poor data in general. hard to get logs, not having really good monitoring in place. So when it came to actually like tracking down a problem and resolving it, it took way too long, much longer than it should. And then we also had the incident response process was really clunky. A lot of throwing stuff over the wall, not really good tooling. One example is if you're on call, you have to provide a static on-call list for a month in advance, and it can never change. So what if someone gets sick? Stuff like that. So just poor tooling when it came to our on-call and incident responses. And again, as I mentioned, thrown over the fence, a lot of handoffs. Someone's troubleshooting something, they don't have access to the logs, they have to put in a ticket, wait for the person to go to the server, get the logs, drop them in the ticket, send it back. So it's slow, right? Slow and clunky. There was also poor communication tools. If you happen to be on call and you're pulled into one of these lovely conference bridges, there's tons of people there, no one really knows their role. You get people that come in every 5 minutes, so give me a history on what's going on. So then that person's got to get caught up. So yeah, just clunky communication tools. Also server-side manual changes. As I said earlier, automation. We had people that would go in and make a configuration change or do some change on one specific server, and that becomes a snowflake, and no one knows anymore how it's set up. So just sorry, I'm really dragging Blackboard through the mud right now, but hey, you got to know what you're doing wrong in order to be able to address it. So I'm just being totally honest here. And again, poor data. Whenever you're doing root cause analysis, if the data's not rich, if you're looking for that needle in a haystack, it's going to take you a long time to really produce a good root cause analysis report, and as they could be piling up, right? So we started modernizing our tools and our processes. APM, we now have it via New Relic. We have it running all the time across all of our nodes. And I think we have upwards of 10,000 nodes right now reporting into New Relic. So right away, you're watching this board, you can know if there's a problem with the application, you can drill in and figure it out right away. You don't have to wait for someone to install the agent because there is a known issue now. So quicker time to getting that data. Also, we're leveraging richer and deeper infrastructure, services, and server monitoring tools that really, again, will be able to isolate if there's a specific server that's having a problem, what exactly is the problem, how can you get in there and fix it quicker. And then one of the other things is with all this data now that we're getting with a proper log aggregation system that we can query against, running APMs all the time with these other monitoring tools, it really provides for us to produce rich RCAs, root cause analysis reports, that we can start using to correlate and kind of find out what specific areas are really our pain points. One example is we have this B2 framework. B2s are plugins. And we just, over the trends, we've seen that there's been a lot, it's pretty volatile within that framework when people are installing untested plugins and B2s. So anyway, that's just an example of something that we've been able to determine with rich RCAs. And by doing that, we say, hey, this is a problem, so let's form a team of people, small team, like a SWAT team, and send them in to fix that problem. And what we've been noticing is our outages have been decreasing substantially because we're eliminating the worse and more constant offenders. So yeah, again, this is all about getting to mean time to detection and mean time to resolution, right? Wanting to find out quickly if there's a problem and wanting to address it quickly and get it resolved. So those are some of the tools that we're using for monitoring. We've also really focused in on our incident response process and tooling around that, our on-call tooling. We're taking an approach with immutable infrastructure, things along those lines as well. Gotta love the cloud. But with the cleaner incident response tools, we're able to isolate the folks that actually need to be pulled in. We're also taking on chat ops. So there's an alert, it hits our notification system, on-call system, which then is integrated with HipChat, and that allows us to all kind of know what's going on, and it produces a rich timeline of what happened and when it happened. So you don't get people getting on the call and asking for an update. They can get on a call, they can get on the chat room and they can see the history. Or they can log into our on-call tool and see the timeline. And they see all the communication that's taken place there. So that's been really helpful. It's getting the right people in the room right away to solve the problems. And then we're also, like I said, we're able to develop richer root cause analysis reports with all this data so that we can then take stuff over to PD, product development, and say, hey, this is obviously an issue that needs to be fixed. Here's all the data to back it. Let's help you build it. Let's help you fix it. And with that data, they're able to really jump in and take care of things quickly. So anyway, we find ourselves in a place now as we're kind of shifting to a DevOps culture where we're really having to revamp our tools. So we're just kind of taking that step forward. Let me see. I'm hiring. If anyone's interested in this challenge that we're being faced with pushing a DevOps culture across a very enterprise company, feel free to reach out. I've got a lot more time left. So that's all I really had in materials. I'm happy to answer questions. Sorry, that was much quicker than I expected.
But you did it.
But I did it, yeah.
You did it. This first conference talk, you did it. You did it.
Yeah, so yeah, does anyone have any questions about some of the challenges that we're having to experience? And if you're experiencing any challenges within an enterprise company trying to take on DevOps?
Yeah, I just wondered if you're doing any kind of acceptance testing in production or anything like that, what kind of validation you're doing after it deploys?
Yeah, so that's actually something I probably should have talked on, because that is definitely one of the newer tooling that we're doing as well. So I really focus more on the incident response, production reliability bit. Now, if we're talking about the CI pipeline, all of that, yeah, we're automating acceptance tests, we're automating security tests, we're automating performance tests, unit tests, integration tests, REST tests. That's all part of this pipeline. So if anything fails, it doesn't get posted for distribution. And if things fail, sirens go off. Well, not really, because we're all over the world. But we have specific rooms that are targeted for any failed testing, where developers are in there. So if we see a failed test, we can make sure they're on it. So yeah, trying to catch stuff before it gets released. We also have a way that we use deployment tags within New Relic. So when we do push a deploy, we're able to see if there's any transition there. And we can always fail back. It's just an auto-scaling group event. That's all it is.
I was wondering if you can speak a little bit about the way in which you automate, because I know that sometimes, especially in enterprise environments, that automation itself can be somewhat of a challenge. And then a follow-up to that, just like CI. And again, I think in enterprise environments, CI can sometimes also be difficult just because of the massive types of software that you have to deal with. So I was just wondering if you speak to that.
Yeah, so on the CI bit, it is difficult and it is challenging. And we've done a big process of migrating our code base, our 15-year-old code base, from one repo technology to another. But you really just got to make sure you have good test coverage. That's one of the things you try and set a threshold to achieve. And at any point, if you start to see the coverage drop, that throws off a siren as well. We should be improving our coverage and not decreasing our coverage. So that's a big one. Also, non-deterministic tests are something that we attack right away. If something fails and then something passes and nothing's changed, that test it's pointless. It's pointless. So fix it or get it out. And we also have kind of a corner, if you will, that we put a lot of these tests. So that they can still run and we can see if they are improving and they are getting fixed. But at the same time, they're not causing a lot of pain with builds getting out.
So you send the test to their room when they're being bad? You
Correct.
Ground your tests?
Correct.
Just like children, okay.
We put them in their own little pipeline.
Can you talk a little bit more on the cultural side that you were touching on in terms of rolling it out through a more traditional enterprise? What's the resistance that you've hit and how have you dealt with that?
So the resistance, you typically get a little resistance from some of the development group, especially if you mention anything about on-call, they flinch a little. So there has been some resistance, and I actually was brought on to at Blackboard in the mobile division, and we were kind of siloed, so we really kind of pushed this, and we did it right. So people throughout the company that usually would resist has seen how well it can work, and so you get a lot of I've gotten a lot of buy-in from our exec team. They came in and said, oh, we know we need DevOps, because I read it. And I was like, oh, well, we've been doing DevOps over here for a while, and let me show you it. So getting executive buy-in definitely helps when you have a successful case to present. And sometimes you just got to do things and apologize later. If you really believe in some new process that needs to happen to make Blackboard a better place, you just put it in, and people start running with it.
So you did the experiment first with mobile as a smaller team,
Yeah.
more independence, and now you're transitioning toward the other product.
Yeah,
Taking over Blackboard,
Blackboard
so
did
to
this
speak.
big shakeup where they're like kind of a reorg, and they break down all these silos between products. It was one of the things where I was like, hey, we're doing this over here, and it's really cool. And they're like, wow, that is really cool. And one of the moments that like this one aha moment we had with our executive team, our senior VP was doing a demo of a new release of Learn, the new learning experience as it's called. And in the middle of doing a demo with sales and marketing and some other folks, we decided to do a deploy. A deploy of Learn typically is a huge maintenance window, downtime, yada, yada. But we were able to do a deploy with no downtime. And all of a sudden, this new feature showed up.
With your 15-year-old code base.
With 15-year-old code base.
15-year-old code base.
Yeah. Still challenging. But so culture just, showing small examples of really good success, making sure that you're putting a lot of thought into, does this actually fit in this big arena? Doing it in the mobile division is much different than doing it in a 15-year-old code base in the Learn area. So just showing good success rate, starting in small batches, getting development. And I've actually seen developers have really come along with this ChatOps approach because they feel like they're being pulled in quickly and that they have good data to fix it. So they don't mind the reactive work quite as much. And you also got to bake that into your like sprint planning and stuff as well. Like you just got to say, okay, well, it's back to school year or back to school season. It's going to be a little crazy, so we won't take on quite as many story points.
We've got time for a few more questions. Yay!
I'm assuming you guys have some sort of change advisory board. How did you inject like the modern DevOps mentality into that like legacy process?
So we do have that, and it's a fun call to be on. So I mean, it's really based on. Usually, you have to bring things to the change review board if based on the potential impact. So it's really being able to do these rolling upgrades without any downtime. Things like that really drop them down in the severity level. So you feel like you don't have to bring and present that stuff to the review board. Yes, I mean there are still some things that need to be done. If people are replacing switches or bringing in a new storage device or something like that, we'll have that discussion. In my world, which is kind of more the SaaS world and not so much of the managed hosting enterprise world, again, we've dropped a lot of what would be considered high severity things that need to be presented because of our tooling.
Hi. So when you get new DevOps people in, how do you train them to make sure that the deployment process and all that is safe? How do you sequence perhaps a number of different actions in a workflow and ensure that there is nothing that kind of steps on each other?
So you're talking about if multiple people are? I mean, we still have one person that kind of hits that deploy button. I don't know if you mean, yeah.
But wouldn't there be some overlap? Maybe somebody is, updating the database at the same time. There'll be some, multiple people.
No one touches our database. No one. Yeah, if you're SSHing into a server or if you're connecting into a database to do something, you're doing it wrong.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that we do I mean, the immutable infrastructure approach. So someone shouldn't be in there mucking with the database when a deployment happens.
Right.
Because they just don't have that access.
I see. But
Yeah.
you mentioned you have rolling deployments, right? So you have rolling deployments.
Uh-huh.
So, when you have a rolling deployment, there's some kind of a workflow, right? Do people have to sit and watch those steps occur, or is it sort of automatic, one step finishes, second
So
step?
it's automatically done. So we, and I could just quickly kind of go over what we do. So our public cloud, we're at Amazon. So we have one server per client. We have lots of different clients, and each client has their own app server tier. Not fully multi-tenant, not yet. So what we'll do is we'll drop the new distribution on the installer node, which is out of rotation, and then we perform the upgrade, and then we do a health check on it. And if the health check passes, we then drop it in and cause an auto scaling event to happen, which will trickle out the old apps and bring in the new apps.
I see. Okay.
And then we'll do that per client. So you'll see kind of, and it's all through like Jenkins. So you see the nice big Jenkins queue, and if anything breaks, bells and whistles go off.
I see. So the person in the DevOps just presses the Jenkins button for deploy, and it just goes and starts this cycle up.
Yeah. Yeah, you say, what environment you want to upgrade, and what build you want to upgrade with, and then you hit the button, and then it queues up all these actions and starts running through them. And again, we know if an install goes bad or an upgrade goes bad before we even drop it into production. And then if it passes all the tests, we bake an AMI and drop it in.
Got it. Thank you.
Any more questions? Anyone? Well, you know what that means. You finished your first
Yes!
talk. You did it.
Yes!
You're
Thank
a
you.
winner.